Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro. 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah, what's up, Vegas? On a Thursday, it is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro back at you, baby. Glad you could join us. Oh boy, do we have a lot to get to today. A lot means a lot. We're going to get to this Amber Guyger stuff. This 6-year-old arrested in at a school, a 6-year-old, for having a temper tantrum. We're going to talk a little bit about that with the family attorney. I guess it's not funny, but it is. The family attorney, Daryl Smith's going to be joining us coming up here at the bottom of the hour. A 6-year-old, that's right, arrested by a police officer in school for having a temper tantrum. Hour number 2, it always gets good when Danny Tarkanian gets in there to have a debate with Mr. Shapiro. Danny Tarkanian is one of those Republicans that believes that this is a nothing burger when it comes to Donald Trump. I want to find out why he feels that way. He's going to be joining us in hour number 2. Hour number 3, we got Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports joining us. We've got some prize packs to give away, some tickets to give away. And, before we get to the news of the day, as I've mentioned before, the Shriners Hospital for Children's Open, the golf tournament. This is day 1 today, Thursday, the PGA Tour in our backyard. And I tell you what, I read the names of some of the people on the leaderboard. It feels like a major, right? Right up there on the leaderboard right now. This is awesome. Adam Scott, Tony Finau, and Phil Mickelson on the leaderboard right now at the Shriners Hospital for Children's Open. How cool is that? Just to say those names. Really awesome. So anyway, we got a lot to get to. We have a lot to talk about. And I certainly want to start with Amber Guyger because let's talk a little bit about if you don't know who Amber Guyger is, we've been covering this story for the last couple weeks. And basically this is a story of a former Dallas police officer who walked into an apartment that she claimed she thought was hers, kills an African-American male. And basically, I said on the show, I didn't think there was race involved here. I thought there was race involved with the jury. There were 5 African-Americans, 5 Hispanics, 2 white men that were on the jury, and they found her guilty of murder, and I was shocked. I was surprised. She ended up getting sentenced yesterday to 10 years for murder, which to many people would say is not a lot. The reason why we're talking about this, something very strange happened in the courtroom yesterday. Something that you would never normally see. The victim's brother, in the sentencing phase, took the stand. And she took the stand, or I should say he took the stand. And he gets up there and he basically says to Amber Guyger, and he says to the judge, "Can I give her a hug?" Now, he says before this, he says that he basically accepts her apology, basically says, yeah, you know what? Talks a lot about Jesus, says all sorts of things about, he's a religious man, obviously, and I don't know how he did it because I got to tell you right now, if this woman killed somebody in my family, I would not be up there on the stand. And accept anybody's apology. I wouldn't do it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd probably feel like shooting her myself if she shot somebody in my family. That would be my first reaction. So I give this brother a lot of credit. So his name is Botham Jean. He's the younger brother of Botham Jean, who was shot and killed by Amber Guyger. Now remember, this is the sentencing phase. She has already been convicted of murder. Could face up to 99 years. She got 10 years. We'll get to that. But there's a moment here where he asked if he can hug her, which never happens in the courtroom ever. So this is Botham Jean, the younger brother, who was in court yesterday.
I forgive you, and I know if you go to God and ask him, He will forgive you. And I don't think anyone could say it. Again, I'm speaking for myself, not even bad for my family. But I love you just like anyone else. And I'm not gonna say I hope you rot and die just like my brother did, but I personally want the best for you. I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you because I know that's exactly what Botham would want you to do. And the best would be give your life to Christ.
Wow, so that's some really powerful stuff. Again, this is the brother of Botham Jean who was shot and killed by this former police officer, Amber Guyger. And then something strange happens.
I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please?
So basically what happens after that is the judge says, yes, this is uncharted territory. This stuff just doesn't happen. And they give each other a very long hug, and it was very emotional. And I got to tell you, the first time I saw this yesterday, I got a little choked up. It was extremely powerful stuff. So I wanted to give this brother a lot of credit for doing something that I don't think many of us would be able to do, that is forgive. But now I want to get to the part of this story that I did not know about, that we did not know about. I said that I did not believe this woman was a racist. I didn't believe that race was involved because there was no evidence to support that. Well, guess what? Now we have some evidence to support something differently, and maybe the jury had this information, but I don't think it came out in court until the sentencing phase. So I don't know if the jury had this information, but this is really bad stuff. And again, if you're just joining us, we're speaking about Amber Guyger getting 10 years. That was the sentence. A lot of people think it was a light sentence, and I'm going to tell you why I think it was actually a light sentence in a second. So this is Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade. Amber Guyger is on the police force. She's working on Martin Luther King Day. In one chain of text messages between Guyger and others, they had to work Martin Luther King Jr. Day. They're talking about that. This was January 2015. One person in this text chain asked of the parade, when does this end? Lots of laughs. Guyger replied, when Martin Luther King is dead. Oh, wait. First of all, I've never heard anyone make a joke about the death of Martin Luther King Jr. Never a friend, family member, anybody, people I work with. I've never heard anybody make a joke like that. So that is beyond reprehensible to start. Then I move on to this where Amber Guyger, they're talking a little bit about, I believe they're talking about racist police officers, African-American police officers, where a quote is, damn, I was at this area with 5 different black officers. Not racist, but damn, one of her police officer friends said. Then Guyger replies by saying, not racist, but just have a different way of working, and it shows. So that she's saying that African-American police officers work differently than white police officers. If that's not racist, I don't know what is. And then it gets worse. September 4th, 2018, a person named Etheridge appeared to playfully offer to give Guyger a German Shepherd. She makes a joke saying she may be a racist, talking about the dog. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, saying, I got a dog. I think the dog's a racist because the dog, I don't know, barks in front of African Americans. Okay, big deal. That's not a big deal. But this is where Guyger responds, and this is very telling. Guyger responds by saying, I wish I could have one, but not in this apartment. She added seconds later, it's okay, I'm the same. In response to the dog. Her friend is talking about a racist dog. She says, I'm the same. Now, her defense attorney said that this should not be admissible in court. Clearly, it was in the sentencing phase. This clearly shows, in my personal opinion, this woman is a racist. Okay? She's made comments joking around about Martin Luther King's death. It's one thing if you make a racist joke, and I don't condone that, but joking around about the death of Martin Luther King, her friend saying she has a racist dog, and then she replies by saying, I'm the same. And it just so happens that she kills an African-American man. Well, guess what? My opinions on this case have changed. My opinions on this case have totally changed in this way. I'm glad she was convicted of murder. 100%. I'm glad. But I'm surprised that a murder conviction only gets you 10 years behind bars. And with probation and everything else, she might only be behind bars for 4 or 5 years. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous. I don't think she went into that apartment knowing that an African-American lives there. I don't think she went into that apartment knowing she was going to kill somebody. I'll give her that. But the argument that some people have made this week when they've called in is, well, if that was a white person in there, would she have done the same thing? I didn't think that was a fair question a couple days ago. Well, guess what? I was wrong. I didn't have this information in front of me. I didn't have these text messages in front of me. Now I think that is not only is that a very fair question to ask, I think it's probably legitimate. If that was a white person in this apartment, maybe she doesn't pull the trigger based on her history and based on her text messages. Listen, I know a lot of people. Sadly, there are a few people that I know that have said some racist things before. I've never heard anybody joke around about the death of Martin Luther King Jr. Have you? No, I haven't. I've never heard anybody brag about the fact that they might be a racist. This woman has. That absolutely is admissible. I cannot believe that the judge, who happens to be an African American, only gave her 10 years. I am shocked, quite frankly. The family has a right to be pissed off. I'd be pissed off too. Maybe that's not even the right word. They're never going to see this guy again. What do I think she deserved? She was already convicted of murder. I am okay with that now. I was not okay with that a couple days ago until these new revelations came out. I don't think she deserved 10 years. I think she deserved 25. Minimum mandatory sentence, maybe of around 25 years. I would have been comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with 10 years. Are you comfortable with 10 years? 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, if you want to be a part of the program, give us a call. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. I am not comfortable with a 10-year sentence for a woman that has shown in her history based on text messages that she probably is a racist. She killed this man, and then after she kills this man, she calls 911, and she's worried more about her own job.
Absolutely.
And she's worried more about herself than saving this man who was right in front of her. I think it's disgusting. I think these things can't happen in society. If these text messages were not out there, I would have been okay with a 10-year sentence. I wouldn't have been okay with a murder conviction. But not only am I okay with a murder conviction now, how the hell does this woman only get 10 years? So, JD, we didn't know these text messages were out there because they just came out. So with this new information, how can anybody justify only a 10-year sentence? And you think I'm right when I say this woman's a racist?
Well, you can't justify a 10-year sentence at this point. And you have to ask yourself, if the man sitting on that couch was Caucasian, would she have shot him? And I'm thinking that the answer is probably 20% no.
Well, I wouldn't say 20%. I'd say it's more than that.
I don't think that. I think 80. I don't think there. I would say there's probably a 20% chance that she would have shot him. I think that the fact that he was an African American on that couch, that's a big reason why she shot him. I can definitively make that statement. Also, and you mentioned she'd also had text messages with other police officers where she was basically celebrating how quick to the trigger she was, how she loved to kill people, how she loved to end people's lives. This chick was not mentally right, and we were both very wrong. Now, granted, we didn't have all the information, but yeah, 20 to 25 years is where this is the correct sentence here. And I applaud Botham Jean's brother for doing that, but this woman did not deserve that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that these text messages change everything for me.
Oh, absolutely.
I give this brother a lot of credit for doing what he did. I think he showed a lot of courage, something that I wouldn't have been able to do, for forgiveness. I'm not sure if she deserved that, but I thought that hug was a very emotional moment. But these new text messages that came out about this police officer, are you kidding me? How did this not come out in the trial until sentencing phase is beyond me. She must have some great attorneys, because it clearly shows that she has a bias and is probably racist towards African Americans. The number to call again is 257-5396 if you want to be a part of the program. Do you agree with me? You think she should have deserved more time? The number to call again, 702-257-5396.
And again, the question is, okay, what did she intend on murdering somebody when she entered the apartment that she thought was hers? Probably not. But once she entered that apartment and she saw an African-American man, she decided to murder him because he was African-American.
Yeah.
I think you can definitively make that statement at this point.
I think you can too. 257-5396. Let's start off with Dante. Dante, what do you think about all this?
Yeah. The thing is, man, the culture of police department, not all over the country, but in a lot of cases, especially like in this cop's case, right? It's just that the bias is just in her. She couldn't help herself. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, yeah, she deserved more time. But again, you got black people always got this forgiveness in them. Look, I could have never hugged that broad.
Neither could
Kill
I.
my brother.
Yeah.
But just like the
I mean,
guy
I would have felt
Dylan
like
Roof
I
did.
would have felt like punching her in the face. Not that
I would have
you
felt
know.
like punching her face.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just like with the Dylan Roof thing,
Right.
the family said they loved him. And
I
all
give
that
them a
crap.
lot of credit. I give that they're religious
couldn't
people.
do it.
I couldn't do it either,
But-
Dante.
But
Yeah.
that girl, that cop, man, she was not fit to be a cop from the giddy up.
No question. And you know what, Dante? I'm glad you brought that up because coming up in our next segment, we have a story of a police officer who arrested a 6-year-old African-American girl. Their attorney is going to be coming up. So speaking of police officers that should not be on the streets, we're going to continue that coming up here at the bottom of the hour. 257-5396 is the number to call. Thank you for the phone call, Dante. Let's go to David. David, what do you think about all this?
Hey, I called in earlier a couple days ago about this. I was wondering if you take race away and just say a police officer busts into a house to shoot somebody, wouldn't that change, like, the whole narrative of this case?
Well, yes, it would, because then you could say to yourself, if race isn't a factor here, then you would say there's no motive, there's no premeditated murder, and I wouldn't be okay with a murder conviction. In fact, I thought that was my opinion a few days ago. But you have these new text messages that came out. I did not have this information. Nobody did. And now she's joking around about the death of Martin Luther King. She's saying that talking about a racist dog saying I'm the same. That shows a clear bias in her mind. I don't know any friends that joke around like that. Do you?
No. This is murder in the second degree.
Well, why does she only get 10 years then? Because I'm not comfortable with that now.
Well, it's because they're all trying to be nice, take it easy on her. She's a cop. She was flustered. She was hard day at work, and she's a white woman.
Yeah. So you're saying if she was an African-American, you don't think they would have treated her the same way? Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Well, how do you explain the fact, though, that it's an African-American judge, though? Because that's important.
The judge has no opinion in this. It is a trial based on the jury.
Okay, well, let's go to the jury because it was actually the jury that sentenced her. We have 5 African Americans on the jury. We have 5 Hispanics on the jury and 2 Caucasians. So what would you say to them? That those are 10 minorities that are on the jury that decided to only give her 10 years, and they had these text messages. They had this stuff. So if there's anybody that you want to blame here, David, you blame the jury.
Yeah, the jury went easy on her. That's in my opinion. I could care less about their race. They're all Americans. But to me, the jury went easy on her because she's crying. She might have made a mistake. But to me, if this was a bench trial, I think the judge would have gave her the maximum sentence.
It's possible. You might be right, David. That's a good point. I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 257-5396. We're talking about the Amber Guyger sentencing yesterday. She gets 10 years behind bars, which could be 4 or 5, which is utterly ridiculous. But then all this new information comes out where she's making jokes and text messages about the death of Martin Luther King Jr. What normal human being that is not a racist would do that? She's making jokes about a racist dog saying, I'm the same. She's mocking African-American police officers, saying that they work differently than her. And she only gets 10 years behind bars. See, these are the kind of cases where you have to do the right thing. And I understand the family's very upset. I don't blame them for being upset. I don't like this no justice, no peace. I don't like that whole thing. We heard that in Ferguson too. But I understand why this family is extremely upset. This was murder. The conviction was correct now, in my opinion. And I was saying a different tune a couple days ago because I did not have this new information. Clear evidence that she is a racist. Clear evidence based on text messages. And yes, somebody called in yesterday and said, well, what would have happened if this guy was a white guy that she shot? And I said, well, that's not a fair question. Well, now I think it is a fair question based on this new evidence. Again, that number, 257-5396. Let's go to Carl. Carl, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Brian, JD. Listen, I'd like to know first if she was ever examined for post-traumatic stress disorder in her job.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
That's okay. Now, let me explain one other thing to you. I studied a little law at one time, too. Murder has to have premeditation behind it. Otherwise, it's manslaughter. But the law is you can take 2 and 3 and 4 seconds to premeditate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then it becomes murder. She could have walked into the room, looked at who it was, and premeditatedly, in 2 seconds, said, I'm going to shoot this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it would have been manslaughter.
Well, the reason why, Carl, I think a lot differently about this case now that he did a couple days ago, based on these text messages. This is a horrible human being. This is a racist.
Yeah.
This is someone who is selfish, a racist, and is just purely a stupid person.
No.
The fact that there are people, sadly, like this, not many, hopefully, but the fact that there are people like this that are on the streets, that are police officers, is beyond me. And it makes every other police officer in Dallas and every other police officer across the country look horrible. And it's not their fault. But you have a dumb woman who probably is a racist based on these text messages. It completely changes my opinion totally. And yes, I think it is a very fair question to ask. If this was a white person there, would she have pulled the trigger? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think that she would have.
Probably not.
At this point. And I agree. And Carl, you make a good point. It's not premeditated murder, but until you have those 4 or 5 seconds. And when she walked through that door, and whether she saw the doormat or not, when she had that 3 or 4 seconds, she saw it. And apparently it was dark, and she couldn't see a whole lot. But she made that decision to shoot this guy while he was sitting on the couch eating ice cream, smoking marijuana. He had no weapon. He was no threat to her whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
But would she have made that decision? Would she have shot him if he was Caucasian? I don't believe that she would have.
Well, it certainly changes my opinion based on these text messages alone. And, we talk about police officers. We talk about, police officers that misbehave or police officers that act in an unprofessional manner, or maybe the cops out there that treat minorities differently. Well, the story we have next is unbelievable. Have you heard about this? A 6-year-old in first grade in Orlando, Florida, was arrested for having a temper tantrum. Yes, that's right. Records show that a 6-year-old student, according to Orlando Sentinel, I think I'm pronouncing that right, was handcuffed, fingerprinted, and booked, along with an 8-year-old. That's right. Let me repeat that. Not a 16-year-old, a 6-year-old for having a temper tantrum. Happens to be African American. So is race involved? Well, we're going to talk to a man by the name of Daryl Smith. He is the attorney for this little girl's family, the Roll family, who have probably been through a rough time. This is embarrassing, right? The good news is that this cop will probably never be a police officer again. At least I hope not. He was fired. I hope he's not. But what does this mean from a legal standpoint? Can a school district be sued for this? Can the officer be personally sued for this? Now, he didn't follow proper protocol, and we're going to talk about that coming up. Our producer, Jason Stein, here in studio. Jason, what did you want to add to this?
Well, I wanted to go real quick back to that Dallas cop story. I posted on our Twitter page, Vegas Take Twitter, offensive text messages surface from Amber Guyger. Does this change the story? And Crystal writes, well, hell yeah. The judge should consider lengthening her 10-year sentence based on her obnoxious, racist comments. 1 year for every ugly comment out of her nasty mouth. That ought to do it.
Yeah, she's right. She's right. I agree. It's a good tweet. She's right. And by the way, if you want to answer that question, check us out on Twitter at The Vegas Take. All right, when we come back, we're going to be speaking with Daryl Smith. He is the attorney for the 6-year-old Florida girl that was arrested at a school for having a temper tantrum. Unbelievable. Take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.